guys, Gareth here from Horsemanship. I want to have a discussion about gripping with your knees and why you shouldn't do it. And for a long time I didn't discuss this because I was under the impression that it was something that only applied to natural horsemanship. And I know not everyone wants to do natural horsemanship. And maybe I thought maybe it's just a Western riding thing, that we don't grip with our knees. But I did a little bit of research on it because the biomechanics of it, all the reasons that we don't do it apply to English riding, dressage and show jumping just as much as it does to Western and natural horsemanship. So I did a little bit of research into it. Gripping with your knees causes you, first of all, causes you to perch. So it puts you in a really awkward position and increases your likelihood of coming off. And you can see with her, the other thing about it is that if I grip with my knees, my horse is going to have a tendency to be forward. So she's going to start jiggling if I'm gripping with my knees. The other thing is that I'm locking up my, let's get back to relaxing my legs. If I close my knees, I lock up my pelvis and I can't move with my horse properly. So where I looked into it in terms of conventional English riding, didn't take much for me to find something for George Morris. I'm not the biggest fan of all of George Morris's stuff. He's a fantastic horseman, but I don't love the idea of hospital will get back on the horse. It puts people back on unsafe horses. But he is a fantastic horseman, and his approach as a jumping instructor, he says if you grip with your knees, your legs go back, and that puts you in a not only a dangerous position but also a less effective position. And if you grip with your calves, then you lose your leg aids. So this mare is a bit of a youngster, but if I have my legs hanging loose and I put on a really light leg aid, it should just move off. And that was my leg aid for forequarters. Did the same thing for hindquarters. Light instruction, she'll yield her hindquarters. If you're gripping with your calves, you're going to lose that. From the dressage perspective, most quality dressage instructors will teach you not to grip with your legs. So it was really just the show jumping and the eventers that I thought maybe it is instructed, but the top level guys don't instruct it. It affects your safety and it affects the biomechanics of how you move with the horse and your aids. But Podhasky is one of the ones to talk about how your legs, Podhasky's approach is almost identical to what we look for in Western, where we drape our legs and only put them on when we need them, when they mean something. Buck Brannaman's got this thing where he says, if you grip with your knees, the last thing you're going to hear when you hit the ground, and it's your knees knocking together, you literally squeeze yourself off the horse. Now, this is all well and good in a saddle. People say, well, what about bareback? Everyone, that's kind of, I don't love the whole no stirrup November. The idea is fantastic that people learn to balance themselves. But what it does is puts a whole bunch of people, teaches a whole bunch of people to grip with their knees or their legs. And that's not helpful at all. So the right thing to do, whether you are in a saddle or bareback, is let your legs drape, and I just tip my toes up to get my stirrups, and then there's no brace from my hip all the way down to my calf. So where we see it is we have people come through for lessons or clinics, and they get on and the horse is perfect when I ride and they get on and the horse is rushing all over the place, running through their hands, and they're having to do one rein stop after one rein stop after one rein stop. The reason is, if you're gripping with your legs, that's telling a horse forward. So for me to now tell my horse forward and pull on my reins, all I'm doing is causing confusion and anxiety. Okay, that is where you see this confusion. Now, there are some people that instruct a rein back with a grip on their legs. Now that is what you call a conditioned response, and technically there's a lot of conditioned responses that you will train where you do something that is counter to the natural physics or the natural instinct of a horse, but you can make that cue mean something. And technically there's nothing wrong with it. Any kind of cue that eventually becomes understood can be correct. My problem with it is that a conditioned response will definitely fail if a horse gets anxious. If a horse gets anxious, they're far more likely to respond to a natural, intuitive and physics orientated cue. So me putting pressure on a drive line tells a horse to go forward, and this is something that it doesn't need to really be taught. It's just the horse's initial response to a pressure on the drive line is to roll forward. So when I teach a rein back, for example, I will exaggerate it as my initial, exaggerate it, legs forward, and I'm in front of the drive line before I pick my reins up. I get a nice soft back up. Eventually, you're not going to go do a dressage test or even a horsemanship or equitation test and put your feet that far forward. So when you refine it, she hasn't done this before, but I'll give it a try. Yeah, it's a lot more subtle when you get it to the refined phases, but we exaggerate a lot so to make sure it's clear for the horse, and then we take that and build refinement. Hope this helps, guys. If you want some help in terms of how to not grip with your knees and to still be able to stay on your horse and have some balance, drop me a message. It's obviously a little bit more in depth than can be done in a 10-15 minute video, but I can guarantee you if you stop gripping with your legs to hold on to the horse, you're going to be safer and more stable in the saddle because you sit deeper, and your horse is going to move more freely with you. Thanks guys, cheers.